How's it hanging, Guardians? And I am back with a follow-up video from my review on Beyond Light. Today we'll just discuss how to fix sunsetting and possible ways Bungie could implement new functions to weapon to make people want to chase them. Before I start, don't forget to leave a like and while you're down and hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any videos. So how would I fix sunsetting? Well, I have a few ideas. First being weapons linked to the DLCs. In the past 4 years, Bungie has made 3 DLCs, Forsaken, Shadowkeep and Beyond Light. Currently, if I was to buy them, which I already have, but if I was a brand new player, I would only get access to the exotic weapons which would be useful and the exotic armor pieces. However, weapons tied to like the Forsaken weapon was a Forsaken symbol, and the Shadowkeep weapon with the Shadowkeep symbol I cannot use because the power cap is 1050, which is the base, and you cannot go higher than that. The expiration date was the start of the season, last season. Now, the one thing I hate about this is in Forsaken there's a quest what you have to do, where you have to do the dungeon. Now, if you're a new player, maybe you're already fine doing certain activities like the campaign, maybe Gambit, stuff like that. So when you have to do a dungeon, you'll try it first. You might be lucky or maybe not. Most people were not lucky like I was. However, if you do decide to do it, you might go use LFG app on the Destiny 2 companion app, which is quite good because compared to other games like maybe the Division 2 where there are like LFGs, there's no single app for it. But Destiny 2 has a design app themselves where you can transfer weapons and so on. But anyway, so if you use the LFG, you need 2 people to make a fighting for a dungeon. Now, you'll be very lucky to receive a helping hand in this. But not many people help you mainly because the content is old, the weapons have been sunset, so there's no initiative for players to chase these weapons. But if you do need help chasing these weapons or need help with campaign, I'll leave my Discord channel below. You can either use the YouTube one or I've designed one entirely on Destiny 2 itself. So it has great guides from other YouTubers. I suggest maps I've designed so it's easier to read, so you can do an LFG. So what Bungie should have done when they're doing sunsetting, weapons tied to DLC like the most popular ones from Forsaken and Shadowkeep should have never been sunsetted. Maybe have an expiration date to rich screen and maybe carry them forward, but they don't. And raid weapons. Yes, raid weapons do have expiry dates. Now, raid weapons are the end game content, so you get from base power level to the higher power level so you can do these raids. But now what people are doing is they only get to high power level, so when it comes to constant mode next year or this year, sorry, for the rich screen content and the raid comes out, they'll be ready for day 1. That's the only initiative they have for power grinding to the max one. And to be 20 levels below, then first round, second round, and third round for the raids, so you can actually have harder content. But now you can be 1250, 1260 and breeze through the raids. People's already done deep zone with 2-man raids, 3-man raids, when these raids are meant to be difficult and 6-man. So if you was to do a Garden Salvation to get that divinity weapon, which is actually needed in the fighting to make a bigger crit spot on the boss mechanics. Now people won't run Garden Salvation because 1, the loot is going to expire, 2 is the raid weapon badge, and 3, there's a puzzle tied to divinity which you must do as a fire team, and doing an LNG is hard enough. But having a raid team, you might get used to the voices so you know where to go. And finally, Last Risk. To do Last Risk, it's incredibly hard to get the raid weapon as it is tied to your luck, so it begins at 0% that increases by 1% for each character each week. And now you have a 1 in 25 chances of getting it because you get 1 key per raid clear. So what some people do is save the keys to open the chest at the end, so they keep opening and hopefully you'll get the 1000 voices. But what Bungie done in the new raid, Deep From Crypt, at the end of it you're able to reroll certain weapons once you collect the all weapons and the all armor piece. It can give you for a chest, or it can give you a certain army piece or a weapon, or you can just focus on the weapon by itself to reward it to get that god roll using the Spoil Conquest. Even though Bungie are arguing against this, because they're saying to stop power creep. But they just released a 2.0 version of another weapon. For example, the Weakness 2.0, you know what it is? Death Adder from the Possibly family, which you get, from the secret quest or doing it from the second encounter. So what's even the point? If they're just gonna sunset weapon what people grinded for, just to say, hey guys, stop using the weapon and move on to this one. I know this is the point is getting too long, so let's sum this up. Bunny said are not a sunset weapon category, including raid and dungeons. Now let's have a look at other people what they have to say in the community.
I was the big advocate that sunsetting would help the life of Destiny 2, and it can, but serious change needs to happen. The core issue lies with the timing of everything. An extension on this timeline needs to be made. Don't believe me? Take for instance the fact that raid weapons and armor from this current season, Season 12, will not be brought into the Witch Queen.
Previously, we could infuse all gear indefinitely, which reduced our motivation and desire to chase new items and find a new meta. While I agree with this to a certain extent, the implementation thus far has been frustrating to say the least, especially with armor.
As you can see, these two YouTubers have said the same comment as I have done, but in their own words. Before I continue, don't forget to leave a like, and while you're down there, leave a sub. So where was I? Second point. How Bungie could make people change off the other weapons. They could have the 4 elements have currently arc, solar, void, and stasis. They could add a special effect. That, for example, at the moment they can only break the corresponding shield faster and have an explosion effect when they're done. So if you don't understand what I mean by additional effect, let's take the Gnawing Hunger, which is a void weapon. It may have a certain percentage chance of applying a certain debuff, which will decrease the impact of the enemy, so they will do less damage, and maybe for 10 seconds or less, so they'll do less incoming damage. Now if we were to take solo weapon, maybe the Arctic Haze, they might be able to put a burning effect for 10 seconds or less, like a Titan shoulder charge. With arc, you might be able to stun enemies like Anarchy, maybe for a few seconds, and these only apply to yellow health mobs or below, like yellow or red. When finally stasis, this might be able to slow down enemies for a few seconds. Now, as you can see here, people might be willing to chase after these different element classes for different weapons. So if you have a God Roll with Gnawing Hunger, you might want to go roll Arctic Haze. So they will be willing to chase these weapons. As you can see here, the system in Crucible Strike has the same loot. But if you were to change it to do what the Deep Stone Crypt Parade, so you can have Crucible specific weapon, Strike specific weapon, and Gambit specific weapon. So what you can do is have currency build up, like token, and then go to the vendors and you spend them by opening chests to get a certain god roll. So once you got the weapon in that match, you'll be able to re-roll it again and again until you get that weapon. So it saves time if you have bad RNG, like I do. So it saves you from getting other open world loot from the vendor or from the playlist, so it saves you grinding. That's the end of the video, Guardian. Thanks for watching. If you like what you see here, why don't you stay around and watch my other videos, which have links below. While you're there, don't forget to leave a like, a subscription and a comment. Until next time, happy hunting.